Whether you like Evil Dead Rise, you love Evil Dead Rise, or you absolutely abhor Evil Dead Rise, you gotta admit one thing. Directors like Lee Cronin and Fede Alvarez before him, they got some gargantuan gonads. I mean, these are some ballsy individuals to take on this franchise. Lesser men would take on lesser properties. If I wanted to go out and make a new entry in a beloved horror franchise from the 80s, I could do the Friday the 13th. I could do like A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes, those are iconic movies in their origin, and there are a few good sequels, but there's just as many misfires. I mean, we're talking about movies that just get it all wrong, don't know the rules of the universe, destroy continuity, and make a whole bunch of other mistakes that fans have had to swallow over time. But no, Fede Alvarez and Lee Cronin now have decided to go into Sam Raimi's playground. And in this universe, we've had The Evil Dead, which is, of course, a beloved classic. Evil Dead 2, which many people consider even better than that original classic. Army of Darkness, which is just like this unbridled creative force that is just wacky and weird and not like anything else you've seen in the genre. And those are the things you want to be compared to, huh? You think you can go toe to toe with those giants? I think that deserves a round of applause. That is not playing it safe. And Evil Dead Rise, just like the Evil Dead remake, does not play it safe. This is a blood-soaked, high-octane roller coaster of a movie, and you feel the brevity of it. It feels like you're in and out. Like when the credits hit, I was like, dang man, we were having so much fun. Do we really gotta go? Can I get more? And I'm happy to hear that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are currently working on what they're calling like an Evil Dead Bible. So we can get a new installment every 2 or 3 years now. And I really think Evil Dead Rise set up the potential for that. And it's going to have a lot of people really interested in going on that ride a little bit further. So let's go ahead and talk about what made this movie so much fun for me. I love the story at the heart of things. Yes, we've moved from the cabin in the woods environment. And at times I wish we could have gone back, but I did like this new condemned apartment building that set up some new scares and it set up a new adventure. But really, what really stood out to me was at the heart of this story, we're looking at these two formerly estranged sisters. We have this fateful night that has reunited them, and then boom, a storm and an earthquake hit, and now all of a sudden, there's this discovery of the Necronomicon, and we're taking on an entire force of Deadites. And it was just really great to watch these two strong female leads bounce off of one another. They both did so well in their performance. On one end, you have Alyssa Sutherland playing the mommy Deadite, which in itself is a fun new flavor for this franchise. And it was really cool to see her at first start off as this lovable matriarch of the family who's trying to hold things down because the father has decided to up and leave the family unit and just leave them to fend for themselves. And boy, are they going to fend for themselves in this movie. So she starts off as affable mommy dearest. And before long, though, as the Deadite sees her, she is now this kind of corrupted soul, this mommy that cannot be trusted, even for poor Cassie, the youngest person in the family.
Mom? Mommy's with the maggots now.
So there's something kind of nefarious and nasty and sinister about that, and it's bolstered all the more by the presence and physicality of Alyssa Sutherland. And she was such an ingenious casting because of her physical traits. She has these long, lanky limbs. She's got these great big eyeballs and this really big, toothy grin. And all of those features are one thing when she's this lovable mama, but it's a whole nother thing when she is now a Deadite, because it makes her look all the more ghastly. It makes her look more imposing, and she's just sneering at you with those great big teeth and those big old orbs in her head, and it kind of makes that little shiver run up your spine and get stuck there. And at the same time, you're like, man, she's just popping right now in front of this camera lens, and I can't wait to see. Can we go back to that peephole and look into the hallway to see what she's up to now? What kind of hijinks are unfolding with her?
To me. Open up now.
Because she's a damn good Deadite, and I want to see more. Then on the other hand, going up against her, you have our protag as portrayed by Lily Sullivan, and she's just instantly likable. I mean, you are rooting for this girl. You are invested in her. She's trying to turn over a new leaf, and best of all, you really get the sense that she would put her neck on the line for these kids she is trying to save, and you will see that play out over the course of this movie. She is bold, she is brave, she is smart, and she is persevering. All the things you want in your final girl or your main horror character. And you'll really just root for her throughout. as she tries to get the best on what was her sister. So I'm glad I could give some love to Alyssa Sutherland for what she does as the Mommy Dearest Deadite, but I also want to go ahead and talk about the way this film uses sound to make you feel the force and ferocity of the Deadites before they even find a corporal vessel to possess. We of course know with the Evil Dead, we're going to get that classic first-person point of view shot as this force rips through, classically, the woods or a cabin. But here we're going through the mean streets and into this condemned apartment building. But you feel it. You feel the embodiment of this sinister evil, even without it being in a fleshy prison. So what do I mean here? Well, through the sound design, you get such a stellar experience that really makes you need to go see this in the cinema, because you'll see a character looking a little uneasy, looking rattled, and all of a sudden you'll just have all this sound blaring out of the left side of the auditorium. And then just like that, it's gone. And you're kind of like, whoa, what's going on now? And then now it's at the right. And all of a sudden you feel like you are quaking in your boots. You feel like you are in the quaking boots of the character you're watching. And then just as quickly as it was over here, it's gone. And there's this eerie silence, and you know better. You know you're not safe, and you definitely know you're not safe once all of it feels like it's swelling behind you. That really got me. When I was sitting in my theater seat, all of a sudden I felt this palpable, powerful music building behind me. All of a sudden I felt like I had to look over my shoulder, and I felt like I was at the mercy of this disembodied force. And so that sound design is just one element that really does testify to the TLC that Lee Cronin and co. put into this Evil Dead film. And there's all sorts of other aspects in which you see that play out. I really love what they did with the Necronomicon in this. I loved once you are able to hear the incantations play out over a vinyl record. And I love that this was fresh and this was fun, at least to me, that the rules were given to you in one fell swoop within this film. They kind of are unfurled over a little period of time. You get them bit by bit, which creates a situation in which if you are a diehard of this franchise, you know all the rules, but the characters you're observing, they do not, which creates a situational irony in which they think they may have bested a Deadite and dispatched of them, but you know better. So while they think there is a corpse behind them that is no more, you know better. You know that they cannot just be casting their attention on the Deadite ahead of them, that any second now that other Deadite is going to rise up, and now they will be flanked by evil on both sides. It creates a whole lot of dread, suspense, and anticipation, which are all three things that you really need in a horror film. And boy, does this movie have those three things because of this ability to kind of play with the rules and spoon feed them to newer audience members while really creating a fun environment for people who have known the rules all along. And the last feature of this film I really want to heap a ton of praise on is the third act. Admittedly, the movie starts maybe a little slow. There's a bit of an exposition dump. We have a lot of background to fill in on these characters. We have to set up why this apartment building looks the way it does and why there's not a whole lot of people around. And so it takes a little time and patience. But once it gets going in the second act, it does not stop. It keeps that Evil Dead pacing, and you just have so many ghastly, grisly images thrown at you at a rapid pace, so many different types of scares, so many cool little gags and stunts. There's just so much going and going and going. And some of it feels familiar. Some of it feels like homaging. Some of it feels like other stuff that just happens in Evil Dead. And then you get to the third act and you go, I ain't never seen that before. That is new. I ain't never seen a Deadite quite like that. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just go ahead and say that we see some Deadites really put their heads together and collaborate in a way we've never seen before. And the results are super fun. And they get you at the mercy of things. And you go, I've never seen that, and I'm a diehard. I knew about the rules thing, but what? We can do this? That's been on the table the whole time? What does that mean? What else is on the table then? And that, of course, is a really nice ingredient for any horror film, but especially an Evil Dead film, where you may think you know better because we've been doing this for 40 years, but you didn't know they could do it like this. Now, to not just be all sunshine and rainbows, to be objective in this film criticism, there were elements that didn't work for me quite as much or were nagging hiccups, things that I just did not want to see in an Evil Dead movie. Case in point, a lot of digital effects. Now, in the third act, there's a ton of practicality. There's just blood splatter everywhere, and it looks real and it looks tangible. But especially earlier on in the film, there's a lot of stuff that you just go, I'm not buying it. That's not in the real world. I couldn't reach out and touch that. That is some video game bullshit. And you can't have that in the Evil Dead, especially because this movie's origins were a movie with a shoestring budget that relied heavily on nothing but practicality. And so when that is your predecessor, you owe it to the fans to do as much practicality as possible. So I will say there were a few moments where I was like, come on, man, you could have made that practical. I could have made that practical. But if you bear with that, you are rewarded in the end. Also, I would say that while this movie does a lot of really cool stuff, like that hallway scene where you're looking through the peephole and you have this kind of fisheye look to things,
Nothing a big old kiss from you won't fix.
that is really fun. That is a bit of visual flair for sure by Lee Cronin. That is him putting his stamp on things. But he just can't compare with Sam Raimi when it comes to the visual look of things, when it comes to the cinematography, when it comes to the camera work. You're kind of missing those hard push-ins and those zoom outs. You're not doing the rapid panning. You're not getting as creative and outlandish with things. This seems way more honed in and way more safe, even compared to like the Fede Alvarez remake for my taste. So I'd be happy to have Cronin come back on for another movie, but I hope he gets a little bit more weirder, a little bit more wild, a little bit more zealous with his camera work and with the look of his film going forward. He did kind of a safe and by the basics approach, if you ask me, with this one. While there was still some really cool imagery, but I would like to see even more. Take the shackles off and swing for the fences, big boy. Also, this may be the biggest failure of the movie for me. While there was a lot of tension and dread, and there were some really good scares throughout it, I don't know that at any moment I ever actually felt like, oh man, survival is a futile aspiration. There's no way to get out of this situation. Whereas when I watch the older films and even the remake, I go, what the would I do if I was in their shoes? How would you get out of this? There's no way to survive. Look at what they're up against. I would be losing my sanity too. How do you come to terms with this? How do you overcome this? These Deadites are just too freaking much. Whereas in this movie, there are a lot of times I was like, this would be really freaking hard, and I may have to part with like some fingers. I may have to let a lot of blood go, but I think if I played my cards right, if I kept my wits about me, I think I could survive this situation. And that's not really something I ever want on the table with the Evil Dead. Even if at the end of the day, the characters were to survive any hypothetical Evil Dead movie, I would want the events of the film to make me feel so unnerved and unsafe that I was like, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen for them. I don't think they're going to make it. How do you make it? How do you make it? I never felt like that with Evil Dead Rise. I was always like, I think I could survive this one. And my last negative, I say this for last because this is really no fault of the film or the filmmaking team. Timing is everything, y'all. And 2022 just had so many great horror films. I feel like because they came out in 2022 and this came out in 2023, they were able to get to certain things before Evil Dead Rise could unfold them for us. I mean, even Scream 6 kind of did with taking a popular, beloved horror franchise and casting it in the new setting of the big city. So they did that first, and so it creates this unwanted comparison between the two. And I would say Scream 6 looks more favorable in this instance because they were able to not just do the one apartment building setting, they were able to go to the Metro, to go to Central Park, to go to the old Cineplex, to go to the bodega, to take it to the streets, to go to a dorm party. So many different set pieces that they're able to explore and make it feel so much larger in scale. Now, Evil Dead Rise does a lot with its condemned apartment setting, but at the same time, I was like, I want to see that classic Evil Dead perspective really rip through the streets and get on people's heels as they go down alleyways. I want to see random people in the cityscape get corrupted by Deadites or get slayed by Deadites. I want to see this first-person shot rip up the stairwell. I want to see it going through the air ducts. I want to see it going in and out of apartments. I think that could have been a blast, but you don't see that play out, and it seems like a missed opportunity. Also, Lee Cronin was talking a lot of stuff about, I'm going to make you guys want to avert your eyes. I'm going to make you question your decision making on why you bought this ticket, why you're watching this movie. I want to make you feel queasy and ill in your stomach. And it's like, maybe in a different year, man. But unfortunately, Terrifier 2 came out last year, and that movie was all practical, and it was so over the top and outlandish. It had an over 5-minute kill scene that was just so gory and so much to take in that once you've seen that, once that's burned in your brain, you can definitely handle what Evil Dead Rise throws at you. So that being said, Really, really fun movie. Another great addition to the Evil Dead franchise. You can take pretty much anybody who enjoys horror to this. They don't even have to have seen the other films, I would argue, to get a lot out of this. However, if you are a diehard, I think there's enough that you may go, okay, they did it right. There's also a lot of little fun homages and Easter eggs, like a pizza box that says Henrietta's. So look out for those when you go to see the film or when you rewatch it, because I think you'll see a lot of different things that go, oh, okay, good on you, Lee Cronin. I like it. All right, guys, there you go. I think I've got out all my thoughts about this one, but I am going to do a ranking. So be sure to hit subscribe if you're new to the channel so you can see how I rank things. Where will Evil Dead Rise slot in the big picture of the Evil Dead? All right, that was fun. I'm going to be dreaming up about Deadites all night long, but I got to go. Have yourself a great day. I'm Nate for Nate Merflix, and that's a wrap.